Welcome to science class. Today, you will be introduced to Earth science. What is Earth science, you ask? Well, it's defined as the collective group of sciences that seeks to understand Earth and its neighbors in space. So it's the study of the entire planet and the entire universe, and you're going to learn all of that in just 1 year? Well, don't worry, it's not so bad. This is an exciting class because I'm not going to spend a lot of time teaching you chemistry, physics, or biology. Instead, I'll be using what you, hopefully, already know to help you understand the world you live in. That is what science education should be. We're not going to memorize a bunch of facts. We're going to use science as a tool for seeing our planet and eventually our planet's place in the solar system in brand new ways. Let's get started. Science is usually defined as the study of the natural world. The natural world really means the whole universe, but for a long time, it really just meant this world. For the next few minutes, we're going to leave astronomy out of the picture. Sorry, Galileo. We have this giant laboratory called Planet Earth, where up until the 1950s, every single experiment and study ever was done. This means that we can take any branch of science, still ignoring astronomy for now, and call that Earth science, because they all explain phenomena and processes that occur on Earth. Where should we even start? I mean, the list is endless. We have ecology and environmental science and agriculture and oceanography and volcanism and seismology and paleontology and meteorology. And we have to use chemistry, physics, biology, and even anthropology and human activity when trying to understand most of these things. Well, generally speaking, Earth science is broken into 4 subjects. Geology, which will by far make up the majority of this course, is the study of the solid body of Earth. There are 2 types of geology, physical and historical. Physical geology sets out to understand the composition and the physical forces that shape our planet, whereas historical geology uses the geologic record to interpret our planet's past. Next is oceanography, which is the study of the chemistry, the physics, the geology, and biology of the oceans. Oceans have massive effects on weather and climate on our planet, and they are crucial for understanding meteorology, which is the 3rd major discipline and is the study of the atmosphere and the processes that shape weather and climate. The final discipline of Earth science is astronomy, which we will get to soon when we discuss why there is a planet Earth in the first place. So to help make things a little more simple, we can think of Earth being composed of 3 physical environments. The geosphere is the solid body of our planet. This obviously is the dominating variable here. I know you think Earth is big, yeah, but you really have no idea. Just think of how vast and deep the oceans are. They're nothing compared with Earth. If we scaled Earth down to the size of an actual globe, then the total amount of water would be about 15 milliliters. That's 1/3 of a shot. Earth's hot, semi-molten interior is the driving force for a wide array of processes, and those processes influence the weather, the ocean currents, and even life on our planet. It's enormous and hot and dynamic, so it's a source of energy, and sources of energy cause changes. We're talking plate tectonics, volcanoes, earthquakes, plus many more. Now you take another object in the solar system, like the moon, and the moon is comprised really only of a geosphere. There's no water, there's no atmosphere, and there's no life. But Earth, luckily, is a much more dynamic place with many, many more things going on. Next is the hydrosphere, which encompasses all of Earth's water, both liquid and frozen. Sometimes the frozen portion of Earth's hydrosphere is referred to as the cryosphere. Separating the cryosphere from the rest of Earth's liquid water is important because there's a lot of ice on Earth. Enough that if it melted and drained into the oceans, sea levels would rise 70 meters. While this isn't something that we should imagine happening even in a few million years, probably, the sea ice on our planet is disappearing, and we will investigate the effects of that. 97% of all Earth's water is in the oceans. When it comes to fresh water, 2/3 of it is frozen, and almost all of the rest is underground. That might be surprising, considering how we almost never even think of water as a precious, rare resource, but rather something as readily available as the air we breathe. But that's how we perceive it. Globally, 780 million people do not have access to clean water, which is a major humanitarian crisis. Even if you can find water, it tends to be pretty nasty. Humanity's historical obsession with beer and wine is partially credited to the fact that thousands of years ago, beer and wine was sometimes safer to drink than water, because it's hard to sanitize water, but the alcohol in beer and wine is naturally sterilizing. For all the talk of climate change and air pollution, which are legitimate concerns, don't get me wrong, I would say that perhaps the hydrosphere is by far the part of our Earth which we are having the greatest negative effect on. And it's the part that we really can't afford to lose control over. But the hydrosphere isn't just about water. As we will learn in the future, the oceans have the most significant influence on climate, which is intimately connected to the atmosphere. The atmosphere, the third physical environment on Earth, is incredibly dynamic and it changes constantly. We're talking by the year, season, day, hour, or minute. The atmosphere is just a thin, tenuous blanket of air, and it's easy to manipulate. Aside from providing the oxygen we need to breathe and the carbon dioxide for plants and to keep us warm, the atmosphere also shields us from harmful UV radiation. Over 99% of our atmosphere is just three gases: nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. Incredible amounts of energy are stored and released in our atmosphere. A thundercloud can contain several times the energy of a nuclear bomb. The lower portion of the atmosphere is warmer on bottom and cooler towards the top. So it convects, which is to say it mixes, transferring heat and energy up and down. There's also constant mixing of different air masses colliding and interacting with each other. This is why weather is so different from place to place, or even throughout the day. There is one other sphere, but it's not a physical thing like the others. It's the biosphere. Whereas the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere clearly begin in one place and end in another, the biosphere really doesn't. But the biosphere is massively influential to all parts of Earth's surface. The only reason we have oxygen in our atmosphere and dissolved molecular oxygen in the oceans is because of photosynthesis. Our planet would still have rain, snow, rivers, lakes, earthquakes, mountains, valleys, but life makes our planet so much more interesting and complicated. We will use the influences of living things to help understand our geosphere, our hydrosphere, and our atmosphere throughout this course. Humans are part of the biosphere, but our ability to influence the planet is so extreme that we will treat human activity as its own branch of study. Human activity will be an integral part of many of the topics we cover. And we're not going to fall into the trap of saying everything that humans do is bad, and everything would be better if we would all just disappear. Do we negatively influence our planet? Well, of course we do, but we are improving our imprint in many ways. So where did Earth come from? And why is that important right now? Well, Earth's formation, it turns out, is important for understanding many key things going forward. This will be a criminally simplified take on all of this, but here we go. You know about the asteroid belt, right? A few billion years ago, our entire solar system was like that. It wasn't just a few large planets and moons orbiting in pretty much empty fields around the sun. It was trillions and trillions of very small objects. Those objects collided with each other and became larger and larger still. Then moon-sized and planet-sized bodies formed and smashed into each other. And now we have what's called a mature solar system. There's still plenty of stuff floating around out there, and things strike our planet and other planets and other moons. Just ask the dinosaurs. But long, long, long ago, collisions like that were happening constantly, and they gradually built up our planet and the others. I know this sounds weird and hard to grasp, but we're talking about events that occurred 4.5 billion years ago. And our brains, they just aren't equipped to understand how long ago that was. But this isn't just some wild guess. We can see planets forming around other stars in our galaxy thanks to the Hubble telescope. This mechanism surrounding how planets such as Earth formed is called the nebular hypothesis. When we test meteorites using radiometric dating techniques, we always get a consistent date around 4.7 billion years ago. That's how we know when our planet formed and out of what kind of materials. Speaking of that, what is Earth made of? The most common element in Earth is actually iron, and it's a whopping 35%, but almost all of it is in Earth's core. When Earth formed, it was entirely molten. When you have different materials in liquid form, they naturally sort themselves out by density in a process called differentiation. Meteorites that we analyze contain trace amounts of all the things our planet contains: water, gases, lighter minerals, and of course, metals. Again, we think of the atmosphere and the oceans as being huge, but compared to the size of our planet, they're puny. Even though meteorites contain only trace amounts of this stuff, when you multiply those quantities to planet-sized proportions, voila, you get an entire ocean or atmosphere's worth of material. Earth's early atmosphere simply evaporated out of the molten material from inside the Earth, and same story is true for the water. Water is obviously less dense than rock and metal, and therefore much of it evaporated up to the surface, just like the gases. Eventually, a very thin layer of our geosphere that we call the lithosphere solidified. But it's not one solid piece, it's broken into fragments that shift constantly. This is plate tectonics, and it's one of the essential components of our dynamic and ever-changing planet. So, that's Earth, in a nutshell. All of those topics, plus much, much more, will be covered throughout the rest of these videos. Next time, we're going to talk about Earth system science and human impact on our planet. Thanks for watching.